our soil is insanely deep. It's river terrace, alluvial soil. We can dig down feet before we hit rocks, which is kind of crazy. And just a little tidbit: when you have more alluvial soils like sandstone or this, just you're going to get lighter wines. So, like my Pinot Noir is a very light Pinot Noir based off the soil. If you get a soil from granite, it's a lot of times super like flowery. If you get a soil that, if you have a Pinot from like a clay soil, it's powerful, punchy. It's yeah. So going back to the terroir, it's crazy the difference that makes. But um, there's like we don't run our sheep and goats in between the vines or anything. They would eat them. So they're in a pasture kind of right next to it, but it's all organic orchards surrounding us. There's like my neighbor who got me into Bitcoin is a farmer. They have an organic orchard and everything. So that's on one side, and then the rest of it's our farm, and then the river. So we're surrounded by a lot of awesome farming, which makes our life a lot easier. But we don't add anything to the soil. We're not like really doing a ton of fertilization. We're not row cropping. We're not like tilling or anything. It's just we mow the grass because it makes life a lot easier to go through them when we're about to do some work in there. And that's about it. Any fertilizer we do get comes from our chicken coop. So when I like crush the grapes, I get all the grape stems. I toss them in the chicken coop, and then when I press the grapes, I get all the skins and seeds, and then toss those in the chicken coop. Then that's covered with hay. Chickens run around on it. We kind of have two separate chicken coops, so every other year we'll scrape out all the soil, all the manure and chickens, whatever that's gone on in there, and use that as fertilizer for the farm. And then the next year we'll do the other side. So it's all kind of staying within the same ecosystem, which is pretty cool. I guess that's technically biodynamic, but within biodynamism, there's a lot of more mystical parts of it. Like I've not buried a goat horn on like the northeast corner of my property under a full moon. Um, but other than that, we're biodynamic. I just don't really. I'm not one to pay for certifications if I don't have to. So
Yeah, it is a funny part of the food system is this whole idea of like certifying food. So the Demeter biodynamic certification is like something that can be paid for by a certain vineyards, and it seems like there are some funny practices like you mentioned. He wasn't joking about burying a horn filled with like manure in part of the property. Like that's a legit biodynamic practice outlined by
it's
Rudolf
real.
Steiner like
Yeah.
way back. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
They got some funny stuff going.
So
And I get
then, but that kind of leads to a funny dichotomy that I'm between is like, um, on my wine bottles, it says natural wine. It's natural. My wine is natural wine. Like that it, I try and pretty much hit that to the T, but there's no certification around that. You could just say natural wine and no one would do anything. No one would test it. No one would really even know. But like this, but so part of me is like, yeah, I wish there was something stabilized. I wish like people were able to find natural wine a little bit easier. But at the same time, like I don't want to do any more certification work. I don't want to fit under your standards of natural wine. I want to do it my way. And you can trust there's proof of work in this that you can trust. You can drink my wine and feel good afterwards. So yeah, I kind of wish there was more transparency, but at the same time, like it's pretty nice to just be able to do your own thing. As a consumer, you probably want a little bit more transparency, but it might cut out the little guys.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this interesting sort of, I'd say, almost a Venn diagram or a nexus point between like the certification of quality versus you've got these almost underground sort of guys. Not that you're underground, but it's almost like you've got to get to know them to know the authenticity. Like the authenticity is there. It's the same level of authenticity, whether it's certified or not. It just takes this extra level of like connection. And then that connection, I think actually is even more powerful once it's made because like I know you, I've heard your story, we've had a conversation, now I know you and the wine, and there's like no need for a certification, but it does, that extra legwork is sort of involved where that connection has got to be made. And I think that's actually really important and valuable. It's just a lot of people aren't willing, I guess, to do that, or maybe they are in your opinion. I know you've been to a lot of farmers markets around the Colorado area trying to sell wine and meet people to enjoy it.
Yeah, so I think there's a few different levels of connection with your food. I mean, you have the baseline eating Doritos and mass produced sludge. And then there's other things that are like mainstream health foods that you can find at most grocery stores and everything, and you feel a little bit better about that. Um, but the third level is, yeah, knowing your rancher, knowing your farmer, knowing your winemaker, and that's where you really get um, the cool special connection. So you get like you can eat organic vegetables from the store, but you're gonna get way more nutrients if they're grown in awesome soils that have been tended to with care. And yeah, it just feels better. You just feel so much more complete when you do know you're a farmer, when you're cooking a meal and you're like, I know exactly where this zucchini came from. Wine is definitely even more so, just because there's so much more nuance going into a glass of wine, and you can hold on to it forever. So you can be like, man, remember when we bought this back in 2020 when we went to Colorado, and we still have this bottle and we're just waiting for a good opportunity to open it. So, I mean, there's all these different connections with it. And I would say that there's definitely a certain part of the population that really seeks it out. You just you have to go to it. You have to go to your farmer's market on a Sunday or whenever, and take time and meet people. And those connections really do mean something. I mean, there's a reason I spend 14-hour days selling wine at farmers markets, because I want those connections. I want to build them. And yeah, it's good for business long term. I mean, I want people to know me and feel like they have a connection to me, but also like I just want people to enjoy my wine. And if they know me, I know that they're going to enjoy my wine a lot more than any store bought wine.